quick update on the bed. Drilling out all these spot welds. Not too bad there. This is a pain in the butt, but I wasn't realizing after I got done doing this, I realized that this is getting replaced, so I got practice, I guess. So in this case, if you don't have a plasma cutter like I did, I was just going to use an angle grinder and just cut the floor here. That way this is all unattached. And those are all drilled out. That's already separated. So this whole piece will drop once all these spot welds are drilled out. And then the real pain in the butt is these, because they're at such a weird angle and you can't really see them. So I guess there's a couple ways you can do this. You can pound this down flat, flatten it out, and if you can't see the spot weld, some of them get bubbled up. Use a flat wheel, knock them down, then you'll be able to find them and drill straight down. But if that doesn't work, I guess you could have had the bed flipped over and went from it from the top side going down that way. Once those are all off, got a couple here, and then that panel will be separated. I mean, there is a couple here, about four. Two here, two here, and then the floor will come out. Just takes a little adjusting. So, quick tip: finding a spot weld that it's really hard to find, or in my case has bed liner all over it. So sometimes, if you just get, one spot freed up, piece of sheet metal. Nice if I could do this. Okay. And just bend it up and keep bending it. You'll eventually bend it to the spot weld, and then you can do the other side, and it'll meet up to the spot weld there. So we now know it's right here. And we'll take the spot weld cutter. One way to find a spot weld, and it's really hard to find. There we go. Yeah, he is. That's what I'm saying. I don't care. I don't either. Alright, load it up. Let's go home. Oh, can you grab your blue chisel? No. And the wire brush? No. Yeah. No. Stop it. Say please. No. I like when you're rude. So. All for the video too.
Is it on there? It is. Oh my gosh.
It's great. Voila! Look at that. Got it pretty well lined up. Doing this with two people makes it a lot easier. For sure. Otherwise, we got the floor jack and we got like, I don't know, 4x2 piece of plywood to hold the whole thing up. Guess you could do it that way too. And then we got this clamp to hold the metal nice and tight while we clean up where it's going to be spot welded. Both holes lined up. That one's perfect. This one I think is just about perfect. Yeah, that's good. Flange here lines up pretty good. Just got to push the center one up. clamp there. I'm gonna have to patch right here. This isn't good. I'm gonna have to do the same right in here. That's not very good. And then of course, got to do that corner because this whole area is, they're always garbage. This side I already cut out. And I'll make a new patch for that. Other than that, I can start spot welding in this seam and that seam, and then that front pan up there. Get that going. And once that's done, and I got this patched in, we'll put the new Crossmember in. Which I guess I can lay it in there real quick and see what it looks like. First test fit of the front sill or front Crossmember. So far, pretty good. Just about here, just needs to kind of come back and down. I gotta fix this, this got boogered up. But for the most part, that'll be fine. That'll go right there. Looking like a new bed already. It'll rust out in 3 years. Okay, that's one. Get an update on these corners. These are done. Nothing special. Just using these patch pieces from Dorman. Get them off Amazon. And then I try to cut them so that the, call it the bed, the ribs, they match. Just looks better. Nothing crazy, just some little, I want to call it stitch welding, kind of, but with a bunch of tacks. It's not doing anything too structurally of a job. That's welded into the flange. And down in here, it's all crusty. You got to clean up enough. We're going to attach it down there. So, that's kind of what it looks like from there. See, the difference you're seeing here is this has a rhino line in, so you're seeing a difference in the thickness of the bed liner, but it'll look good when it's done, especially since the owner's gonna get it really rhino lined, so it'll be good. Alright, so got these started, not finishing that yet. I want to get this piece in here so we can hold all of this together before I start trying to round those corners in. Those are just relief cuts. But trying to fit this piece in here, and we're in this weird issue where, like, with it sitting flat, it was putting a hole like this. So now, once it sits flat, at least in this back part of the flange here. That'll be good. And then this, I'm just gonna have to probably maybe bend this flange just a little bit down toward the bed. Because the whole thing was, it was like opened up. So it was not sitting right. Put all these holes right. Crooked, I mean. Didn't notice it until we really started to fit it in place. So I guess that's what happened to it, maybe in shipping. It's hard to say. Otherwise, small adjustment, but we're good to go now. So I'll start fitting it in place. Okay, so we're all done welding in all these spot welds. I even did some straight down to the new floor as well. I didn't, I still have to do these couple things, but I left those because I think I'm just gonna patch these. These are so thin. So usually if there's even a little bit of surface rust on them, it's almost pointless to try and weld to it because it just keeps blowing through. So it's just easier to patch a little rectangle in there and get good metal to spot weld the cross member to in that portion. So it took some finagling because there was something really wonky with this thing. It was just opened up and it would just not sit real well. So, but got it dialed in. Had to use some sheet metal screws, which that's not really uncommon when it comes to doing body panels or anything like that. Just close the gap, and then I can start getting spot welds to hold it in place. Remove remove the self-tapping sheet metal screws, and then fill those holes in, and just keep moving along. So, and then the next step will be to finish kind of trimming these, making these a little neater, and getting those all tacked in on those edges, and this one here too. And then once that's it. This is all done. And then we can, throw a little bit of paint on here. I know the owner, the customer, he said he was going to do something with undercoating and getting the top side bed line, so we don't have to worry about that this time. Other than that, not too bad. Looking really good though. Okay, getting ready to put the bed on. So here's my crazy setup. This is how I can do all this stuff by myself. Engine crane, got some weights in there. Actually, you really don't even need these for a short bed, but I do it just in case. Definitely for the long bed though, because I got an extra length of square tubing added in. That way I get a long reach with a long bed, but it helps with the short bed too. Just some, these are heavier duty ratchet straps. Go like that. I bought one of these heavy duty carabiners. Supposedly it's rated up to 1,000 pounds, which is way more than enough. And I've been doing it like this easily over the last 5 years with dozens of beds, so it works. So now let's wash. All right, quick little view here. Just watch this thing drop right on, and bolts are all in. Everything's lined up perfectly. Can't ask for anything better than that. Bed lines up pretty well. It'll snug down a little bit more as soon as I tighten it, because it's got a little wiggle to it, as they always do before you tighten them. Side looks pretty good. Get up here real quick. This truck's pretty big. It's got an 8-inch lift and 38s on it, so up here a little bit higher than usual. Yeah, these all worked out really well. This whole floor pan did. I mean, it's dead on. The front, the only part that, you know, I would have been skeptical of would have been the front, because that was separate from the floor, but I took measurements and made sure it was all lined up. And then the only other tip I got with these bed bolts, these, do not tighten these with an impact gun until you have these things threaded in by hand, you know, till as far as they'll go. As we had experience a few sets of these. They're not the greatest. Sometimes the quality's not that good, but you got to get them in there hand tight, and that's when you know you're in there straight and all the threads are catching the right way. Then usually I actually tighten these by hand, because a couple times, even after getting them in, threaded in just with my fingers, and we went to use the impact, and that ended up like stripping everything out. We had to cut these back out, pull the bed up, and it was a mess. So I'd recommend just tighten them in by hand. There's not, you know, it doesn't take very long. So all good. And then the last step up here will be clean up these edges. This is going to be this sharp line here. I mean, you're pretty much seeing where the bed liner ends, because this bed liner is like an 1/8 inch thick. So I'm going to take a cut-off wheel or something and smooth it back, and then seam seal it, make it a good transition. All right, I forgot to record this, but these tailgates that have the step and all this stuff in it, these are pretty heavy. I just forgot about it till now. So that was fun. But the first thing you need to do is heave it up under the bumper. And then you want to be careful. If you have another hand, that's great. This will be easy. Have them hold this end. And you want to guide this hinge in first, because it's got to go in like this. So whole tailgate, it's the hitch. The tailgate would come up like this and slide right in on this side. And then this passenger side, it actually, while it's like that, it drops in, and then it'll tilt down, and then you can slide those on and down. But yeah, these ones are a little heavier. And then they actually have an electrical connection, which I have to do. It's just behind the bumper.